Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
Hello, Chris. Thank you for the valuable information you shared with us and for the good time we had.
Yeah, you are two of my favorite people I've met since I've been here in Romania the past couple of days. What are your names?
Lelia.
And I'm Oli.
Lelia and Oli.
Yeah.
Cool. And where are you both from?
I was born in Oradea, which is like a city next to the Hungarian border.
Mhm.
But I live in Cluj, which is like the capital of Transylvania, since I was a student there, biophysics.
I was born in Pitești, which is a city at around 120 kilometers from Bucharest, but I've been living in Bucharest the last 10 years.
Okay. And you're both students of astrology, or I would consider you both to be astrologers, right? Do you consider yourself to be astrologers?
I'm more of an astrology enthusiast. I've been studying it for the last 5-6 years. I've been self-taught, but also attended the Fidelia courses. I would really love to work as an astrologer, but I don't have anything planned right now because there are also the other issues you have to consider, like not having a stable income as working as an astrologer, not having a stable schedule, and so on. So I haven't decided on that.
Sure, but maybe someday.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you have plans to do astrology as like a profession, or is it more of like a side thing?
Oh, it's a profession. It's a
Okay.
full thing. I made a page on Instagram, and that's how I just started posting things about just aesthetic things,
Mhm.
and then talking about transits in a more poetic way. And that just bloomed and kicked off,
Mhm.
and people like connected with it for some reason, which is very cool.
Right.
And through my Instagram, I got my first clients, and now I am practicing astrology as my main thing.
Awesome.
But
What's your Instagram handle again?
of underscore Venus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I've been offering consultations myself, but more informal consultations to friends and friends of friends. But it's useful for me to learn by doing.
Sure. What type of astrology do you both practice, or do you gravitate towards specific approaches?
Yeah, I work mainly with evolutionary astrology.
Mhm.
I like working with clients that have another spiritual practice that they do and don't devote themselves too much to astrology, because it is a very deep practice that takes a lot of time and investment in it. So I get clients that are Reiki masters, yoga teachers, tarot readers, you name it, like numerologists or other things like that, clairvoyance. But I use astrology from an evolutionary standpoint from the Jeffrey Wolf Green School,
Mhm.
but to help people through a more Jungian, a psychoanalytical way,
Mhm.
right? And it just comes naturally to people like in our generation, the Pluto and Scorpios, to work with Pluto, to work with Pluto's polarity point, to go into the hidden desires we all personally have.
Mhm.
So that's my main jam.
Brilliant. And you both actually are Saturn returning, or you recently had your Saturn returns, right?
Yes, last year.
In Capricorn?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yep.
How is that
Survivors.
going? Survivors? Yeah.
It was constructive for me. It was in the 4th house.
Mhm.
It was related to me buying my first apartment and actually renovating it from the scratch.
Mm.
And there was a lot of work, a lot of delays, a lot of things that I didn't foresee coming, a lot of new responsibility, adult responsibility. But at the end, it was very rewarding. And I finished with all the stress and the work just when Saturn was just left the degree of my natal Saturn.
Brilliant. So it was really close to the exact return when it sort of culminated?
Yes.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Last year was I'm a night chart person, so it was more prolonged, the experience. It was more desolate, but in a very good way long term. It manifested in my 6th house of career, jobs and service, and some diet and health changes that are not that important, but details like detail adjustments in things I eat, in what I do as a routine. So I've been more focusing on relearning to have plans. I spent all my 20s just shooting from the hip and being very Aries, midheaven. I'm just gonna not plan, and whatever happens, happens, and I'll just trust my inspiration at the moment to work things out. That doesn't work anymore with Saturn entered Capricorn.
Right.
And,
Structure.
Yeah, that's a really common like experience of the Saturn return, but it's one thing to know that in theory, and it's different to like actually experience it and live it in person.
Yeah, I forgot to mention I'm a day chart person, so to me it was hard work, but constructive, rewarding work.
Sure. Whereas you found yours with a night chart to be purposeful and meaningful, but a little bit more challenging.
It was more inner. It was more about me being okay with the no's I tell my own self, and just accepting the limits that we naturally have as a human being in our human experience. And because Saturn's gifts are by showing us what we can't do right now at the moment. So our ego inner child Cancer persona needs to relearn the fact that it's fine if you don't do this now. I know you want it, but maybe it's not the right thing for you at the moment. So chill out, go within, and see that the no is actually steering you towards a better yes. But we live in a society that's very filled with instant gratification, and Saturn does teach us again to work with time on a more personal level. To feel time, to feel the density of reality as it is. It's not like a burden or a malignant unlight that Saturn is. It's just showing you that, hey, you're here to actually feel the heavy weight of time. And things just don't move as they usually did, as the rate of speed that you normally want, but it makes you not make stupid decisions.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Had you both attended other astrology conferences or events like this before, or was this your first one?
To me, it was the first one.
It was your first one? What led you to, how did you find it?
I graduated the Fidelia courses, and they were the organizers of the event.
Okay.
And I was very interested in attending your workshop.
Oh, right, because you both had listened to the podcast before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that like the first day we met that you'd listened to it.
Yes.
And so you took the certification course here in Romania?
I didn't take the certification course yet, just the free introduction levels. I will have my certification in September this year.
Okay, great. Cool. That was something we interviewed and talked to them about earlier, just the process of setting that up and building astrology here in Romania from scratch, which is a unique experience to have a tradition literally sort of start out of nowhere in the past 20 or 30 years. Have you guys met other younger astrologers that are in your age generation generally in this area?
I have friends in Bucharest who are very interested in astrology, not necessarily as working as a professional astrologer, but for self-help, self-analysis. The status of astrology in Romania, it's a bit complicated. It's actually quite popular, but at a very basic mainstream entertainment level, which is okay from some point because it makes it more popular, but from another point of view, it does spread some prejudice against it because people aren't aware how mathematical and methodical and how much research there is behind astrology. And actually studying advanced astrology is still somewhat of an eccentric thing to do.
Right. It's not like a well-respected profession in any real sense.
Yeah, but that's globally.
Sure,
Yeah.
right.
I think astrology is about to become popular exponentially, and we have to be ready for it. I know memes and social media nonsense will be tiresome and annoying sometimes, but I think it's a good filter the system actually has in its own mechanism, that people who just use it for giggles and daily nonsense are just going to stay at that level. But people who want to know deeper, something, actually do something with it, will naturally gravitate towards knowing, okay, more about this and that.
Right.
Yeah, and it's going to be more prevalent in our day-to-day life. So we need to make sure that, look, this is a valid lifestyle, this is a thing we do, it's a thing that it's human, it's a human science, and as long as humankind exists, astrology will do so as well.
Yes.
How did you both get into astrology?
As I was saying, astrology is quite popular in Romania, and I was always attracted to it. But I think it was 6 years ago when I was very interested in self-analysis and finding more about myself and things happening in my life. So I came across an astrology website, in my birth chart, and studying every placement I had, and I was so invested in it. I had so many exciting revelations that time. I couldn't stop learning astrology ever since.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. It really took hold of you, and you just decided to really focus on it from that point forward.
Yes. It started at a more personal level.
Right. Cool.
Yeah, for me, it was more, I come from a more pagan background. I'm a practicing animist, so that's my framework with how I look at nature. So, of course, I really looked at solstices and like equinoxes and work with that in my own life. But something weird happened, that I work with the moon. Like when the moon was waxing, I used to think of positive traits that I have and just work with them. And when the moon was waning, then I just picked on the negative things and just, shedding them off bit by bit. Just mundane stuff like, I won't eat those chips anymore because they make me or I don't like how I talked yesterday with that person, and I'm not going to do it anymore.
Sure.
But some friends of mine were like, oh, the moon is in Cancer now, so I'm overly emotional. And I was like, what is that? What is that thing actually real?
Right.
Is that thing actually working? And I just sat a year just watching the moon, seeing that every 2.5 days, the moon was very, it reflected different emotional experience, not just in me, but the world around me. And just after that, in like 2015, I went into astrology full time.
2015?
Yeah.
Okay.
The moon is the key.
Sure.
I also noticed, without knowing astrology, that certain times of the year gave certain events of a similar nature in my life. And I found that very interesting. For example, in August, when I have 12th house sun transit, I'm always lethargic, without energy, and things don't usually happen. So noticing all this stuff rendered me to believe that there is this connection between our life and the natural cycles.
Right.
It was weird for me because around July, people usually go to the beach and are like, oh, great vacation time, and it's so nice.
Right.
And I'm like, no way. I want to just stay in home in my doom cave.
Right.
And just don't interact. I didn't understand why the beginning of summer made me more inward focused. And why in the middle of winter I am guns blazing, high energy.
Sure.
But then I did discover, like, I have Cancer in my 12th house. And from there, things clicked into place.
Right. And then over the past few years, you've both continued to get more and more interested and more focused on it. I mean, one of the things I'm trying to figure out is like where astrology goes from here, if it continues to become more popular, and if it will sort of continue that trajectory, just what that looks like, or what astrology might look like in 5 years or 10 years. Do you guys have any like sense of that, or any ideas about what you might expect to see happening?
Yeah, I expect a merging of different practices.
Mhm.
I mean, traditional ancient astrology is popular. It's a niche within a niche, but it's becoming popular.
Mhm.
And channels like yours do help bringing it to a more wider audience
Mhm.
and making it human. But I think like we can see a merging of evolutionary astrology, ancient astrology, Uranian astrology, whatever, a lot of different practices. And I think we'll discover things along the way that we're not even thinking about at the moment.
Mhm.
But some people will work with astrology more from a psychological background, some more spiritual, some will use it for divinatory means, for predictions. And, each branch of astrology works better in those different ways.
Sure.
We'll we'll find the hub, the networking part with uh, the aquarium vibe.
Right.
I'm very curious to know how far technology can go in the next years to actually help more advanced astrological calculations and accurate predictions, and
Right.
what will be the extent of the astrologers' intuitive judgment or selection of different methods of prediction, and what will be the technological input.
Right. Yeah, you were talking about that, I think yesterday, that
Mhm.
just astrologers haven't fully leveraged technology yet as much as they could, and maybe
Yes,
we'll see more of that in the future, and that could play a significant role that's hard to anticipate in some ways.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think we'll see more apps, mobile apps,
Mhm.
astrologers using that platform to get their message out. I mean, Instagram, Twitter, more things like that.
Mhm.
Just it's. I mean, you have an Instagram account or a Twitter account, and you normally attract the people that you resonate with, and
Mhm.
you start making communities within communities. And those communities interplace like, brain neurons or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think I don't know how technology will help with that. I mean, I think it's gonna bloom so fast and so heavy that I mean, it's beyond what we can imagine.
Sure. I mean, already just the two of you learning astrology over the course of the past several years, you've been able to connect with a lot of different like communities or a lot of different astrologers around the world by studying their works or watching videos or listening to lectures or other things like
Yes.
that. And that's probably been a unique experience for you in terms of your journey in learning
Mhm.
astrology.
It's very cool that we have so much accessible information on the internet right now.
Mhm.
And I think that in a few years, this may help stop prejudice against astrology
Mhm.
and help people understand that there is actually a lot of work and research behind it.
Right.
I think it's very grateful to be living in these times because I would never would in my craziest days imagine
Mm.
that now I'm actually a practicing astrologer and I have clients from Australia to Chile to Texas to whatever,
Right.
and just have a integral connection to people all around the world. And that technology really helped astrology find its true voice, and it will help it further.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I was excited just to meet like you guys and that you'd listen to the podcast and to be able to like connect with you coming to a different country and not really knowing what to expect, but being
Mhm.
able to like immediately relate to you. So I was really glad to meet
Mhm.
you guys. And I'm hoping that maybe you'll come to the if not the conference next year, maybe a conference in the future so I can introduce you to some other astrologers in our sort of like age range generally.
We'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to see Colorado for a long time. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking like I'm starting to think because it's the International Society for Astrological Research is hosting it, and it's going to be in Denver next year in September. And I'm starting to think like maybe there should be an effort to bring more astrologers internationally there, to whatever extent that's possible.
Yes,
Like it,
because we also want to connect with like minded people.
Right.
I mean, it's very rare to just sit with someone and nerd out about astrology.
Right.
And normally you're that dude at the bar and you ask him about the moon and the sun and whatever,
Right.
but we hide our passion from the wider society most of the time because it's not really the environment isn't really conducive or ready for it to be that mainstream. It will always be to the side.
Yes.
It will be very popular, but it will always be to the side.
Sure.
Yeah.
And sorry.
And it's how it should be. It's part of the system. It's built in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you get into studying astrology, you have this system of viewing reality, and just talking with people who have the same system is like speaking the same language, and you don't get that experience every day.
Yeah, and that's what feels so good about it. And so it was really nice connecting with you guys here, and I'm glad we met. And I hope to continue that at future conferences and meetings in the future.
Yes.
So thanks a lot for joining me today.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.